Welcome to the JAMODI podcast, where we interview coaches and leaders to find out not just what they do, but how they do what they do. Becoming the best version of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it. How do you build confidence in players, in your players?
Okay, well, this is the way you don't. And you don't tell them about how they're doing better than they actually are. And I know they've grown up their whole life being praised for doing half of what they're capable of. It's just our culture. But anyway, the struggle in athletics is we come in here and we're different than all the rest of society completely. And now we've got to come in and work through all this trash these kids have been going through since they were 3 months old. All right, to answer your question, we create adversity. Now, well, that sounds crazy to help confidence, but we intentionally, without any apologies, we as coaches, we create adversity and help them through it. I've got a couple of examples. We do one thing that's called 8-on-4, and it's basically you've got 8 defensive players playing against 4 defensive players full court. So obviously there's double teamed everywhere they go. And it's a unique game where if the offensive team scores, they get double points. A 2-point field goal counts 4 points. If they keep the ball 30 seconds without a turnover, again, they get the ball back and they get 3 points. And then that is insane. And the kid, it's so funny. I'm talking to a kid who is a senior now. We're working recruiting him, and his dad played for me back in 2000. And the first thing the dad turns and says to the kid is, "I can't wait for you to have to go do 8-on-4." And so it does build confidence as they fight through the adversity we put on. A second thing that we do, and we're not alone in this, but we play an incredibly tough non-conference schedule. It's just insane what we've done with our kids with no scholarships, and we have won 80 games against scholarship schools, and we're pleased with that. But we've lost a lot of. I don't even talk about my overall coaching record because it's tarnished just because of all of playing 10 to 12 games a year out of our 30, like where we're just totally outmatched. And maybe we'll win 1 out of 5 of those. But that's just a huge part of our culture. People ask, how come you've won 3 national championships? The first thing I'd come back to is, well, what we did before we went to that national championship tournament and where we had to go and who we had to play. And just create adversity. Like, for instance, I know at the national tournament, you got to play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 games in a row, back to back to back. And so we intentionally, 1 or 2 times during our regular season, during non-conference, we will do a 3 games in 3 days stretch. So they're used to the back to back to back. So when we get to the national tournament, we'll say, we've already practiced this. When we're doing one of those back-to-back-to-backs in November, we're already explaining what's going on, what's the philosophy, what's just create adversity, help them get through it. And it's not screaming. This is sad. I talked to a fellow coach who's been an NAIA coach for probably 15 years. And he was talking about sending his kid to someplace because he thought it would make his son be tougher. And he was talking about, and I said, well, what do you mean tougher? And he admitted, okay, that means the guy's going to be screaming at him the whole time and using profanity, calling him the worst things imaginable. And I said, that just doesn't work anymore. That's not going to help their confidence. That's not going to make them tougher. I'm not so sure that ever actually worked, but yeah. To create confidence is a major thing because basketball is a game of confidence. And I remind them, I ask them, you can't fool yourself. You know what you can do and what you can. If you can't really go left, trust me, you know that. And that's why you will always take one dribble with your left hand and find any way possible to get the ball back to your right hand. And skills create confidence. And there's no substitute for it. You have got to put skills in your game, or there's no way you can have confidence. Even if the coach tells you every time, every minute how great you are, and I can't even go left.
Yeah.
They're not fooled. The only thing that happens in that exchange is they start thinking the coach is absolutely stupid.
I think that's a good point. If you start to tell them to be confident in something that they know themselves they don't have the right to be confident in, that trust between you and them might start to erode a little bit.
Exactly.
I love that. I love the 8-on-4. That drill I'll definitely steal, because I think so many times against, like, we know we're playing a team that pressures, and we might have gone through our press break a little bit the day before. But for me to sit there in a timeout and say, fellas, hey, be confident against their pressure. You know how to beat it. You know what to do. Like, is that true? Like, have I really put them in those positions to where they deep down, like an 8-on-4 game? Guys, we've beaten 8 before with 4 guys. Because of that, you have the right to be confident against these 5 guys.
Right. I mean, especially if you're coaching high school, I would say attacking pressure is the number one offensive thing you've got to work on every day, because wherever you move up, as long as you're, if you're moving up through the playoffs and you're getting closer to the state championship game, at some point you will deal with 1 or 2 extremely athletic teams who literally can do nothing beyond just press and press, press and press. And if your teams can handle that, they'll win the game.
Yeah.
If they can't, they're going to be embarrassed. And so 8-on-4, I think, is just, and I kind of just invented that 20 years ago out of necessity, because we just had too many people being able to physically attack us, intimidated us. And I mean, even if I was working with 7th graders, I'd be working on their ability to handle pressure.
Can you explain the game a little bit more, just the how behind it? Like where do they start with the ball? What rules do the offense and defense have?
Well, and let me say, I'll email that in depth to anyone. But having said that, it's a full court game. So the offensive team with 4 people, they're throwing the ball inbounds 94 feet from their goal. So they got to get it down the court. We don't play the 10-second line. So, however, we do say, okay, when you finally get the ball onto your offensive half of the court, you have to stay there. We'll still call back court. So typically in our situation, we'll have, say, 4 guys have little red pennies on. Okay, so they got the practice jerseys on, but 4 guys will put on 4 red pennies, and then we'll have 4 other guys put on green pennies. So that way there's your 8 players. Now I have my 4 guys in blue that are the team attacking, and they're trying, it's a 3-minute game. It's a 3-minute game. So, and the reason I have the players with pennies is, let's say me and you were on the blue team and we're working, and of course I make a bad pass and one of the guys in green steals the pass. At that point, it turns into a 4-on-4 game, as we 5 blue players are going to be guarding those green players attacking us. So then it turns into 4-on-4 game, and let's say they shoot and we get the rebound. Instantly, the red team's back in. It instantly turns back into 8-on-4. And so we're just pressuring again, and we're facing it. And let's say we get it down there, we get a shot up and we miss, and red gets a rebound. Well, it's 4-on-4 again. Okay. We sprint back. Red's coming at us, and we're playing. Now, if we go down here and we score, so I finally throw a good pass to Matt Saman, and he catches it and hits a 3-pointer. We get 6 points for that, and we get the ball back down at the baseline again. So it's make it, take it for us. So we can make this extremely competitive on years that we have, as many kids in the gym, say 16 in the gym. What we will do is we'll even have a third team sitting out and maybe they're wearing black or whatever. So if I see the yellow teams loafing around and they're not working hard on getting the doubles, they're out. The black team's in as part of the 8 players playing. And just that's it. Back to the how do I keep the maximum effort? A big thing that is we do our best to keep at least 16 kids in the gym just for practice. So they have to work hard even in practice just to stay on the floor through the things we're doing. So, and that can really make a very creative. So we'll typically go through a three-minute game, then we'll switch it around. So another one of the 4 guys gets to have the privilege to be double teamed everywhere they go. So I used to do it 10 on 5. I've adapted it because it was just too crowded with 15 rather than 12. The biggest fear on this is you don't want kids getting hurt. So you have to be really strong on your 8 kids that this is not a fouling practice, that you're not going to foul. There's no reason to foul when you've got 8 people to guard 4.
Right.
They don't get to get out of control and go crazy. I mean, you just stay completely on top of that. But it's a great thing to do. I mean, if it kind of depends on how many teams you have in your conference, the press, but I always, it's never going to make them worse.
That's right.
It'll never make them worse. It'll make them tougher. Now, from coaching standpoint, it's the ugliest thing you ever watch, but that's half the point. The last thing you want are pretty basketball practices. I mean, if you're we're not ballet. We're not trying to look elegant and graceful. I mean, we're trying to look aggressive and competitive and mentally tough. And the biggest thing that kind of mixed into all of this is you cannot, and this kind of fits in about 4 places we've talked about, you cannot have body language that tells the other team that they're affecting you. Because one, that improves that there goes your teammates' confidence in you. If you look intimidated and you look soft, you lose all credibility with your teammates. And then, of course, the extremely aggressive team, all they're going to do is just triple the power on you because they feel like they just found the weak spot.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.